Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of February 18th to the 24th, 2024, where I take a look at a couple of stories and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. Before we get started, I do want to point out that assuming things go well tomorrow, this video is being recorded on Friday, I'm thinking about doing a live stream of Ghostbusters, the video game for the Nintendo Switch, mostly in honor of the upcoming Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which I believe is aiming for a March 22nd here in the US. So if you're interested in that one, I hope to see you on Saturday to watch me do the live stream and me playing Ghostbusters, the video game. I'm aiming for a 9 p.m. Pacific time in terms of reaching this. If you can't watch it, I'm going to record the gameplay and I'll have it up on hopefully soon and everything like that. So assuming nothing changes or anything like that, nothing really big or anything like happens like that, I'm aiming for that time for those who are interested in seeing me play Ghostbusters, the video game remaster and everything like that. But anyway, we got 5 stories to cover this week, including reports that Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League may have not performed as well as WB has hoped for. And I think when you look back at it, there were probably warning signs that were there that point that out. Nintendo did have their Direct this week under the name of the Nintendo partnership and everything like that, or partner showcase and all. Phil Spencer responding to claims about Microsoft maybe abandoning physical media and everything like that though. And we also are going to be hearing from Sony, which unfortunately saw some, at least their PlayStation side, saw a $10 billion, I think, drop in a lot of things, which raises some questions about the health of the PlayStation brand to a certain extent. And of course, reports of Nintendo also kind of seeing their share drops following last week's rumor going around about the possibility that the Nintendo Switch 2 or Switch successor might not launch until 2025. If you're interested in where I got the source of these informations, links will be in the description of this video down below, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, I would like to do what I like to call is the quick My 2 Cents. Excuse me, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details and everything like that. The first one is that we have a new trailer for the Elden Ring DLC called Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, if I'm saying the name correctly though. Most of it is a mixture of gameplay with it shot in a cinematic way and everything like that, and I will say it looks kind of interesting. I might consider taking a look at this one. To be exact though, I'm fully aware of Elden Ring, being a Souls-like game and the amount of time some folks out there broke their controller and everything. But I will say I do think Elden Ring is the best Souls-like game that From Software has done. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think their games are good. I don't think their Souls games are bad. I just prefer the Koei Techno, like Nioh 1 and 2 and Wulong Fallen Dynasty. But either case, I'll keep an eye on this one. This is something I definitely would be looking into and all. We also learned that supposedly a so-called leaker is claiming that last year the Banjo-Kazooie game, which may have been greenlit by Microsoft, is currently being reworked and everything like that. Now, again, nothing official at this time and no word on whether or not the game, what changes are being made to the game or whether the game exists or anything like that. But it's possible the game could be being reworked, especially since there are people who do believe that Toys for Bob would be a good idea to do something, or Toys for Bob would be a good idea to do a Banjo-Kazooie game, to be exact. But time will tell whether or not this game will see the light of day or not. I would definitely would like to see another Banjo-Kazooie game. I definitely would be down for that. But since, Rare is now different from what it was before, mostly focusing on Sea of Thieves and everything like that, the question is, if another Banjo-Kazooie game were to happen, could it recapture the magic that the first two did, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie and all? We also learned that the upcoming PS5 exclusive Stellar Blade will have several different graphical options, including one that's sort of in between having a good frame rate and having some really good visuals and everything like that. Personally, I'm going to be aiming for, the frame rate though. I'm going to try to have the game run at 60 frames per second. I'm more of a gameplay over graphics kind of a person. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think 30 frames per second is necessarily bad if it's a steady, stable 30 frames per second. But if you ask me if I had to choose between 30 or 60, I definitely would be going with 60 frames per second all the way, even if it means knocking the graphics down a bit here and there. So, I mean, that's sort of my approach on it. But either way, nice to see that there's going to be some graphical options for the upcoming Stellar Blade and all. We also learned that basically Pokemon presentation, or the Pokemon Present, or the Direct, has been announced for February 27th. So for those who are into Pokemon and everything like that, they'll be doing their own Direct and everything. As for whether or not how this Direct's going to play out, remains to be seen. It will be interesting to see what they do and don't announce and everything like that. I'm not really big on Pokemon, so it doesn't really click with me, but I'm sure there are Pokemon fans out there who probably would like to see what exactly is going to be shown at this Pokemon Present and all. We also learned that some analysts believe that Sony is likely to launch the PS5 Pro this year. There have been some rumors back and forth about claiming that we might see a sort of a mid-gen refresh from Sony, sort of like we saw with the PS4, where we had the PS4 Pro and everything like that. I'm just still not sold on the idea of a PS5 Pro. I'm just not really 100% think that it's basically necessary or anything like that. But then again, I'm sort of the same person who kind of thought about that about the Switch Lite. I thought it didn't really seem necessary, but yet that did very well and everything. So who knows? We'll see how this one is going to be and everything like that. We also learned that the developers of Baldur's Gate 3 has sort of called out the state of the industry during the DICE Awards and everything like that. Most of it is, I believe, talking about, the recent layoffs and everything that's been going on in the industry and everything like that. So, yeah, it's certainly something that we've been seeing a lot of layoffs lately within the industry, though. Some just very unfortunate, others maybe because since COVID has kind of receded to a certain degree, it's not the everyone staying home as it once was before in the past and everything like that. So, but yeah, I will say that there has been the state of the industry is in sort of a very odd place at this time. We also have been seeing that Xbox has been pushing, or Xbox fans, I should say, has been pushing a petition on change.org to get Helldivers 2 to basically come to the Xbox. Right now, it's only exclusive on the PS5 and PC, and it seemed to be doing very well, at least according to Steam charts, although there have been some reports that some people have been having a hard time logging in or everything like that, although my nephew's been trying out Helldivers 2. He seems to like it and everything like that and all, but I mean, whether Helldivers 2 will ever come to Xbox or not remains to be seen. I mean, if Sony actually 100% funded this game, then at the end of the day, it's their call if they're going to bring it to the Xbox or not. Personally, I'm not big on the co-op experience or anything like that, so this one doesn't really click with me as much. I understand if there's an audience for it, and I'm not denying the game's success. Same thing with Pal World and everything like that. It's just not something that that interests me in anything like that. We also are learning that supposedly this one's from Deadline, that apparently basically that the gaming sector is going to find struggle in 2024, as they believe that the growth will retreat to pre-COVID levels. In other words, they're believing that you're not going to see the kind of growth that was seen during when COVID happened, where, again, as I mentioned, a lot of people were staying home and trying to, entertain themselves, keep them occupied and everything like that. So, I mean, it does seem like, I think all this time of all this push for, all this stuff, and yeah, I kind of can see where basically there may be some struggles for the gaming industry in 2024 and beyond as COVID starts to, recede more and more. And finally, last but not least, supposedly Jeff Grubb, who is claiming that some of the sources he heard that mentioned, Epic Mickey Rebrushed, which I'll mention in the my take on the Nintendo Partner Showcase, is also telling them that supposedly Metroid Prime 4 could be out this year, to be exact. Now, I will take it with a grain of salt and everything. like that and all, but I mean, is it possible Metroid Prime 4 could come out this year? I mean, it is possible. I can't exactly, excuse me, can't exactly rule it out. But on the other hand, at the same time, I wouldn't rule out the possibility it could be a launch title for the Switch successor or the Switch 2. Assuming the Switch's 2 launch date is accurate, supposedly this claim of it being released in 2025. So time will ultimately tell if this happens or not. I would like to see what Metroid Prime 4 looks like and everything like that, especially after back in 2019 where they had to completely reboot that game in particular. Also, we're still waiting to see if, Metroid Prime 2 or 3 are going to be making their way over to the Switch, which I believe they will, but we don't know if it will be if it will get the remaster treatment or not, like the Metroid Prime remaster did and all. And in the movie and TV show part of the My 2 Cent video, we do have some reports that indicate, at least from Cord Cutter News, that YouTube TV is now the 4th largest cable TV company out there. So, I mean, certainly nice. I mean, I've had used YouTube TV, and I'm happy with what I see. I mean, it's basically cable without the cable box. That's pretty much what it is, which is certainly good or bad depending on how you want to look at it, though. We also are learning that reports seem to be coming out that Peacock and Paramount Plus and Comcast could be in talks with the possibility of a bundle with the Peacock Network and Paramount Plus. Again, nothing official has been made at this time, and it will remain to be seen if basically this will happen or not. We also basically got a first look at the Borderlands official trailer, which was basically shown, and based on what I've seen so far from the trailer, I'm just not feeling it right now with this movie. I'm just not 100% sold on it. Even with Jack Black voicing Claptrap, which might be the only real good thing I've seen out of this trailer so far, I'm just not convinced. To me, it feels like they're trying so hard to be like James Gunn's Guardian of the Galaxy movies and all, and I'm just not not feeling it with it right now with this trailer. I mean, I still enjoy the Borderlands series, don't get me wrong, but the movie trailer I'm seeing so far isn't really selling me on this movie right now. Maybe the second trailer will offer something a bit different or anything like that. I mean, we'll see what happens when the movie comes out, but right now, I'm not completely sold or anything like that. We're also learning, at least from both the Direct and the Hollywood Reporter, is that Marvel is going to be looking at retooling how they do their superhero movies going forward. This is in response to what happened last year, where outside of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Marvel didn't really have a great 2023, though. Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania didn't do very well. Secret Invasion did not do very well on Disney Plus, and even the Marvels didn't do as well at the box office as Disney and Marvel would have hoped for. So it's clear that they're going to be reevaluating and re-examining what approach they're going to go and everything like that. I will say the Multiverse Saga has been kind of a mixed bag, to say the least, in terms of the direction they wanted to go with in terms of this and all. Speaking of which, there's also a report from the Direct that seems to indicate that the upcoming Avengers 5 movie may drop the Krang title, though. Now, as most of you are aware of, Jonathan Majors did play Krang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, and also a variation of him under, He Who Remains in Loki Season 1 and Season 2, though. However, given the box office failure of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, even though I thought it was the best in the Ant-Man trilogy and all, combined with, Jonathan Majors' legal issues and everything like that, it seems that it is possible they may be dropping Krang altogether or anything like that. I mean, right now we still have to wait to hear official confirmation, but I wouldn't be shocked if they do drop the name the Kang Dynasty, though. I mean, remember, before Avengers Endgame came out, it was called Infinity War Part 1 and 2. However, Part 2 was dropped in the name of Endgame and everything like that. So we'll have to see what happens, and we'll have to wait to hear from Marvel, though. We know the movie won't be out until 2026, so we still have some time before the official movie comes out and everything like that. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of our My 2 cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Nintendo, which apparently, let's just say there's both good news and bad news, though. Now, as some of you may have been aware of, though, as we enter in 2024, we are starting to hear reports, or at least start talking about, the rumblings of the Switch successor, or Switch 2 and all. And most analysis and most folks who come out are claiming that it would be coming out in 2024. But then a report, at least came from a Brazilian journalist, that according to their sources, they started to hear about the possibility of a 2025 release date for the Switch or the Switch successor, though. This kind of blew up online a little bit as it started to raise questions about Nintendo in terms of their whether they could be facing a drought this year or anything like that. So it certainly brought up some very interesting questions. Well, it does seem to say that the impact of this was felt, at least in terms of its stock and everything like that. In one article from Nintendo Life, it has been reported this week that Nintendo is currently the richest company in Japan. Basically, they had it ranked from cash and they ranked it in cash and cash equivalents. Other companies they pointed out were Capcom, Gunho, Sega, Konami, Square Enix, Bandai Namco, and everything like that. So clearly, Nintendo is certainly doing well financially, especially where the Switch is currently right now, although there have been reports it's been slowing down a little bit. But not to mention the Super Mario or the Super Nintendo World theme park at Universal Studios, both in California and in Japan, and of course the Super Mario Brothers movie, which really dominated the box office and did very, very well indeed. However, their stock kind of took a recent hit following the report of basically what was going on with Switch 2's delay or anything like that. As you all know, though, basically this was reported from the Brazilian journalist, though, that would not be released until 2025. Later on, Video Game Chronicles and Eurogamer also collaborated, though, and then, of course, this report from Bloomberg, which says, as reported by Bloomberg, Nintendo's shares dipped as much as 8.8 on the Tokyo Stock Exchange following last week's update before settling on an overall value loss of 5.8. As noted by Video Game Chronicles, these are still decent numbers for the company, but are a marked decline from January's success. Bloomberg report quoted Lightstream researcher analyst Mio Kato, if I'm saying that correctly, who suggests that Nintendo's shares could continue to fall as new buyers become increasingly impatient for the company to put up visible numbers. One of the comments he's mentioned, quote, Nintendo's numbers for March 2025 fiscal year could start to look rather ugly if key software is delayed at the same time that the current hardware has aged so much. Conservatively, the report also quotes Bernstein's analyst Robin Zhu, if I'm saying the name correctly, who suggested the shares might in fact bounce back from this as investors seek to buy in on the dip. Zhu still expects an announcement for the Switch successor to come in the next 6 months, Bloomberg's noted, despite rumors making the claim that March could be when we see when Nintendo might reveal this system or not. Shares are bound to EBB and flow as reports on what's next for Nintendo continues to flood in. Of course, we won't know anything for sure until Nintendo provides us an official word on that matter. So, do I see this as is this bad news for Nintendo? I'll admit it's disappointing, but I don't think it's the end of the world for them, though. We've seen cases before where their stock has taken a dip in some ways, but then bounced back to that. Even when they make announcements of games at one point, when E3 was around, we've seen their stock take a dip and everything like that before, but I've always bounced back. So this one really isn't, I wouldn't consider this is the end of Nintendo or anything like that. That said, I could see it to a certain extent that this might put some pressure on Nintendo to really start talking about what games may or may not be coming this year, especially if the reports about Switch 2 being delayed into 2025 turned out to be true after all. And while I still take that with a grain of salt, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that it could be pushed into 2025 and everything like that. So it might put pressure on Nintendo to really start talking about the Switch 2 or Switch successor soon, though. I'm not sure it's going to put the exact same kind of pressure as we saw with Microsoft, where I think 2 weeks ago, that whole rumor about Starfield coming to PS5 and everything like that, and Microsoft might go full third party or leave the hardware business. It got to a point where Microsoft had to respond to it, and they did last week, which in the end turned out to be nothing more than them just basically giving us an update of things we already knew what direction Microsoft was going with the Xbox brand. So I'm not sure I would put it on that level, but it might put some pressure on Nintendo to really start talking about the Switch successor or the Switch 2 soon, though. So overall, I would say, obviously, the Nintendo is still doing well. Yeah, the stock dropping is a little bit unfortunate, but I don't think this marks that Nintendo's in the red or in financial trouble or anything like that. But I won't rule out it is possible it could maybe force them to talk about the Switch successor soon or anything like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with Sony, basically, with some of their financial report. And then, well, although the PS5 is doing well for them, financially, they've seen they've lost, I think, $10 billion or 10 billion yens. I'm trying to figure out which one it is of those. But either way, not exactly great news for Sony. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Sony and all. Now, there's no doubt that the PS5 has been doing very well for Sony for this generation of consoles, though. Despite getting someone off to a rough start, mostly because of, COVID and the whole, shipping situation and everything like that, it seems as though the PS5 is continuing to do very well for Sony and all. However, their latest financial reports seem to indicate that they may have to consider maybe making some changes to some of their approaches here and there. In an article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads that, quote, a new report calculated that Sony's value dropped by around $10 billion last week following its revived PS5 sales forecast. While Sony has previously hoped to ship a record 25 million PlayStation consoles during its current fiscal year ending March, last week it said during its latest quarter's earning results that it's now expected to miss that target by 4 million units. Following the earnings report, Sony's shares fell as much as 8.4% and closed down to 6.5%, partially as a result of the revised PS5 hardware sales forecast, but also partially due to a drop in operation margins in Sony's gaming business to 6% compared to 9% in December quarter of 2022 and 12 and 13% in the year before this. Now, a new report from CNBC, in which the news outlet has made a calculation using fact sheet data, suggests this drop in share prices has resulted in around $10 billion of value being wiped from Sony stock since the forecast cut. An analyst told NBC that the new shipment forecast wasn't as disappointing as the low level of operation margin. They also explained that the operation margin at Sony's game divisions were 12 to 13% for 4 years, and that's as currently a margin of 6% are extremely disappointing and almost a near decade low. They also said that Sony's margin should have been rising during this period instead of falling, given that there are various tailwinds that should have driven up the margin towards 20%, such as an increase in digital sales, as well as Sony's PlayStation Plus service, which has a margin of around 50%. Their revenue on digital sales, add-on content, and digital downloads are at an all-time high, yet their margins are at a decade low. This is not acceptable. During the latest quarter financial earnings last week, Sony said it expects PlayStation hardware sales to gradually decline during the next fiscal year, April 2024 to March 2025, and confirmed it plans to release no major existing franchise title during this 12-month period. And in Q&A session following the earnings call, Sony's president and PlayStation chairman said he wants the company to be aggressive when it comes to improving the gaming division profit margins, where he said can partially be achieved with greater focus on bringing first-party games to PC. So yeah, not necessarily great news for Sony, at least on the financial side with the PS5 or anything like that, but I wouldn't consider it this is the end of PlayStation or anything like that. But I do see it as it's possible it could be maybe somewhat of a shift in some of their strategies, or shift in terms of their game development and everything like that. It does seem that Sony will be leaning more and more towards maybe doing a day one release, not only on consoles, their PS5, but also on PC, I think we've seen that with Helldivers 2 and everything like that. The other possibility is that Sony may have to consider reevaluating some of the development costs of a lot of these games. I mean, I'm not saying Sony should abandon making AAA games or everything like that, but I do think that not every game that they put out there should be a AAA type of experience. You could do like smaller or AA titles to help kind of fill in that gap as people wait for those big AAA releases, though. Like maybe bring back games like the Dark Cloud series, or Rogue Galaxy, or Resistance, Fall of Man, or SOCOM, Navy SEALs. There are plenty of games Sony could consider bringing back and everything like that. So, I mean, there is probably going to be some changes here and there in terms of their gaming division to a certain degree, though. But I mean, either way, I mean, great that some areas are doing great, but not so great that, wow, they lost really $10 million. That's not good. So, yeah, I don't think this is the end of Sony, but it's clear there may be some course correctness or some changes in terms of what they're going to be doing with the PlayStation brand and all. So, overall, I wouldn't consider this, like I said, this isn't the end for Sony or anything like that, but I think it wouldn't surprise me if there's going to be some changes to some of their game development or on that side, though. Again, it could be maybe bring the games to PC more and have it released on the same day as the PS5 version. Some of it may be changing some of the costs for a lot of these development games. Like, not every game needs to be a AAA experience. But in either case, it's clear Sony has their work cut out for them. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with basically Phil Spencer responding to some reports about possibility that Microsoft could be moving away from doing, physical release and everything like that. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at a report coming out in regards of future of physical media, at least on the Xbox system at this time. Now, during one of the layoffs that we started to see from Microsoft and everything like that, one of the layoffs was some of the folks who were in charge of the physical, in terms of making physical copies for their Xbox system, particularly for those who have an Xbox Series X and everything like that. Excuse me. This led to speculations about the possibility that Microsoft is going to be doing away with physical copies for good. And some of that kind of added a little bit more fuel to the fire when supposedly during the Microsoft versus the FTC trial, some of the notes that were revealed was a possibility of a new console that would have no disk drive whatsoever, although there have been claims things have changed since then, at least according to what Phil Spencer did. Well, recently he sat down and this was sort of brought up to him, and he sort of responded saying that Microsoft is not moving away from physical media, at least at this time, and everything like that. From an article from Insider Gaming, it reads that, quote, When talking to Stephen Toldill, if I'm saying his name correctly, Spencer was asked about Xbox's future and only releasing a console with a disk drive. Spencer said that the company will follow what the consumers are doing, which right now is buying games digitally. However, you wouldn't shut the lid on physical games remaining part of the future of Xbox, despite it being tougher to get the hardware. This is what he had to say. Quote, gaming consoles themselves have kind of become the last consumer electronic device that has a drive, Spencer said. And this is a real issue just in terms of the number of manufacturers that are actually building drives and the cost of associated with those. And when you think about the COGS, KOGS, that we're going to go to put in the consoles, and then you have a few suppliers and a few buyers, the cost of the drive does have an impact. But I will say our strategy does not hinge on people moving all digital and getting rid of physical media. That is not a strategy thing for us, though. So basically at this time, Microsoft is saying they're not abandoning doing physical media or anything like that. But I do think that as we start to see music, movies, and TV shows start moving into like a digital phase, such as, and also seeing how Best Buy and Walmart are phasing out some of their physical media, though, I think that we're slowly starting to move to sort of like that all digital future, and I think Microsoft is kind of realizing that as we start moving into that direction. I think that's both kind of good and bad to a certain extent. I mean, I do see the benefit of having, you know, like buying games all digital and everything like that. I have an Xbox Series S and everything like that. But we've also seen the downside to these all digital futures, especially when it comes down to, do you really own the rights to a lot of this stuff? I mean, recently we saw what happened with Crunchyroll and Funimation, where people who purchased a lot of those animes started realize that they lost their library or anything like that. And that's one of the biggest concerns about doing this all digital approach and everything like that. So there is issues of, do you really own the games or own it even after you purchased it through the digital storefront and so forth. So there is certainly some serious concerns that is out there and everything like that. But the sales numbers, as we've seen with several physical media, though, there has been some decline to it, and we're moving more and more closer to that all digital future, which is unfortunately going to happen sooner or later, and that might not only put pressure on PlayStation, but even Nintendo themselves. Right now, we do have reports that the Switch 2 or Switch Successor will accept, you know, cartridges and everything like that. But there is going to be a point where eventually Nintendo may have to start embracing, you know, the all digital future as well. I know that's not something everyone wants to hear, but it is an unfortunate reality that we are coming towards and everything like that. So overall, good that Xbox is not moving away from physical media and everything like that. But seeing how digital sales have been on the rise and everything like that, excuse me, it's pretty much only a matter of time before, you know, we start seeing games start becoming more and more that all digital future, which again has its pros but also has its cons as well. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4. And this one, I want to give my thoughts and my take on what I thought about the Nintendo Partner Showcase. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of my My Two Cent video for this week. And for this one, I'm going to be taking a look at Nintendo's partner showcase that happened this week. Now, there have been rumors before this partner showcase happens of whether or not Nintendo was going to have it. Most believe it was going to be during, you know, around February, but that's how it normally was. And then last week, there were claims that one of the reasons why Nintendo may have not had their showcase was due to, you know, Microsoft basically answering the rumors that were spreading about them going third party or not, which, as I mentioned before, I think it wasn't as earth-shattering as a lot of people made it sound like to be. Well, we did learn that basically they would do their partner showcase, and after watching it, which was like around 25 minutes, I would say I stand behind my decision to give it sort of a grade, if I had to, a B. I think there were some neat announcements, but I would also state that I don't think this is going to be the most memorable direct or memorable partner showcase out there. So what I'm going to do is break it down into what I like and what I didn't like, mixed, not 100% sure about though. Excuse me. The first one is basically Unicorn Overload and Contra. I basically like what I saw with those games though. Unicorn Overlord, I like a lot of the games Vanillaware has done and everything, and this is one I'll be keeping an eye out. And I believe both of these games will be getting a free demo, which certainly isn't bad. I believe with Unicorn Overlord, that one is whatever you do in the demo, you can bring over to the main game, which is by no means a bad thing at all. The next thing they showed was Penny's Big Breakaway. That one I'm going to keep an eye out as well because I like some of these old school 3D platforming games from, the GameCube, PS2, and the original Xbox era and everything like that. This one's definitely is going to be on my radar. The other one was Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist. Basically, it is a Metroidvania style of a game, and I like those kind of Metroidvania games, so this is one I'll be keeping an eye out. Next one is Disney's Epic Mickey Rebrushed. This one was rumored for quite some time that we heard about possibly a remake or a remaster of Disney's Epic Mickey. I remember playing it back in 2010 when it came out on the Nintendo Wii, and it was actually pretty fun. I mean, yes, it did use the Wii remote and nunchuck and everything like that, but I still enjoyed the game nevertheless. It was kind of a mixture of somewhat of, like a Banjo-Kazooie, Mario 64, with maybe a little bit of Zelda into it, with some choices and consequences in the game and everything like that. So it was definitely a fun game when it came out on the Wii, and I'm very happy to see this coming, especially to multiple systems, but especially for the Nintendo Switch. I believe Purple Lamp, the ones who did SpongeBob SquarePants Rehydrated Edition, I believe that's the name though. So we'll see how this one plays out. It does look interesting, so it's definitely one on my radar. The other one they showed was Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, which is basically more like the complete edition for Shin Megami Tensei. So that one's definitely on my radar, and I thought that was a good game on the Nintendo Switch. It turned out to be those rumors about Microsoft bringing some of their games over to other platforms turned out to be true. For the Switch, we are basically going to get Pentiment and Grounded are coming to the Nintendo Switch. Grounded, I thought was kind of interesting to see that one come over and everything like that. Pentiment, I'm not really surprised because that's not really the most graphically demanding game out there. Whether or not it could find an audience on the Switch remains to be seen. I mean, bear in mind, I played Pentiment on Game Pass. It's basically what it would be more like a point and click type of a game. That might appeal to some folks out there and everything like that, but still, nice that they brought this game over. Nevertheless, we also learned that basically Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, that one is coming over to the Nintendo Switch. And again, most of these games are coming to other systems as well. I do think the Monkey Ball series is actually fun. It kind of feels like a spiritual successor to the classic NES game Marble Madness and everything. Sword Online Fractal Daydream. I do like the Sword Art Online series, and I did enjoy the other two that were on the Nintendo Switch. Basically, Hollow Realization, if I'm saying the name correctly, and Fatal Bullet. So this one, I might give this one a try. We learned that some of Rare's games are coming over to the Switch Online service, which is nice. I mean, I think Snake and Roll, and to Blast Corp, which is certainly nice indeed. Those are available if you're part of Switch's online service. And of course, World of Goo 2. This was a fun game when this was released originally for back during, like the Wii era and everything like that. It had a unique art style, and it was a very interesting puzzle game. It's sort of nice to see them do a sequel to it. This is the same folks, I think, did the game Little Inferno and all. In terms of what I didn't like, mixed, or not 100% sure about, I would say that while it's nice that we saw some of Rare's games make their way over to the Nintendo Switch and everything like that, I do kind of agree that it would have been nice if, they brought over Rare Replay instead, which had a really good collections of a lot of old rare games and everything like that. So a bit unfortunate that we didn't get something like Rare Replay. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not disappointed with some of the rare games that are being brought over to Switch's online service, but again, I think Rare Replay would have been nice if they added to this one, though. The next one is basically Kingdom Come Deliverance Royal Edition. Now, this was a game I did not really think would be making its way over to the Nintendo Switch. I figured this was one of those, graphically demanding games and everything like that. But when in an age where games like Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, to even, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal making their way to the Switch, though, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, though. That said, I've heard stories of how the game kind of struggled when the game originally launches and everything like that. So I'm a little cautious about this one, though. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad they're bringing it over to the Switch, but I need to see more about that game, especially how well it's going to run on the Nintendo Switch. So that's something to really, I need to see more about that one, though. The next one is basically that while it was nice that Pentiment and Grounded were announced coming to the Nintendo Switch, sadly though, one game that was missing from it that would have been nice to be brought over was Hi-Fi Rush. Unfortunately, it's not coming to the Switch, at least at this time. It is making its way over to the PS5 though, but at this moment it isn't coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, there has been some back and forth about that game. There have been some claims that the game may be announced at a later date to the Switch, to even one that's recently started to pop up that makes the claim that it's possible the game is being saved for the Switch successor or the Switch 2 or everything like that. So it remains to be seen if that will happen or not, but for the time being, it is a little disappointing that Hi-Fi Rush, unfortunately, is not coming to the Nintendo Switch, at least at this time. And last but not least, I would say, while I definitely enjoyed this partner showcase, I don't think there was any real surprises or anything that made this like the best partner showcase out there at all. I mean, like I said, there were some neat announcements and everything like that, but nothing that really makes this like memorable or anything like that. So I thought, again, all right, but nothing really special. Overall, like I said, I'm going to give this one a B. I really think that there were some really neat announcements, and there were some games that they showed that I'm definitely looking forward to, but it's not going to be something that's good. This partner showcase is probably not going to be something that's going to be remembered for a lot of folks. It's one that I think will probably be forgotten here and there, though. But in either case, it was still a neat, a nice 25 minutes, though. It will be very interesting to see when we see like an actual Nintendo Direct or anything like that, to see exactly what Nintendo may have to offer for 2024, especially if the rumors about the Switch 2 or the Switch successor being pushed into 2025 turn out to be true or not. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to our fifth and final part, and this one has to do with an unfortunate report regarding the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, as it did not at least meet WB Games' expectations or anything like that. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fifth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation surrounding Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, as WB Games has given an update, at least in terms of financial-wise for that game, and it's not looking really good. Now, when this game was originally announced, though, and it was going to be handled by the same team that did the Batman Arkham series, there was certainly some excitement for this, though. The fact that the team that handled that series, which is really loved by a lot of folks out there in terms of like one of the best superhero games out there and all. So once it was revealed last year during one of Sony's State of Play, and it turned out to be sort of a live service looter shooter, that's when things went really, really bad. Almost immediately, the game was downvoted big time on YouTube and a lot of sites, and people were really heavily criticizing WB Games and Warner and Rocksteady and everything like that. We would later learn that some of the folks at Rocksteady, some of the original folks, would leave, even go as far as forming their own studio. It got so bad to the point that even WB Games decided to delay the game, to give the game more time in the oven and everything like that. But even so, it did feel like the damage was pretty much done to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, as there were worries about whether this game would suffer the same fate as Marvel's Avengers and everything like that, which also suffered a similar fate as well. Well, if what WB Games, especially from their financial report, is true, it means that it's probably going to be very interesting to see how long this game stays until eventually WB pulls it, just like what Square Enix did with Marvel's Avenger. In an article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads that, quote, Chief Financial Officer provided brief update on the game's early performance during WB Warner Bros. Discovery's fourth quarter earnings call on Friday, saying, quote, we are lapping the release of Hogwarts Legacy in February last year, which saw the largest portion of its very positive financial impact in the first quarter, he said. This year, Suicide Squad, one of our key video games released in 2024, has fallen short of our expectations since its release earlier in the quarter, setting our business up for a tough year-over-year competition, basically in the first quarter and all. It also points out that the game has received mixed critical receptions, earning a score of 60 on the console and 63 on PC on reviewer site Metacritic, while launch was negatively impacted by server issues and auto-completion bug, although supposedly user reviews were supposedly good or anything like that. Rocksteady recently confirmed that Suicide Squad free seasonal content will be themed around different DC characters, starting in March with the Joker. In November, Warner Bros. Discovery CEO said the company was focusing on turning its biggest franchises into live service games. Yeah, I would say this is not probably the best start that WB Games and Rocksteady wanted for basically Suicide Squad. But I think ever since that announcement of it being a live service game, especially coming from a studio that did the excellent Arkham series, you can see that there were questions about this game right from the start and everything like that. And honestly, I'm not shocked to hear this about what happened to this game and everything like that. I was a little surprised to see the user reviews, and some of the reviews seemed to be okay for it, but even so, there were reports released from the Steam charts that it was falling very quickly. And I think with that case, this throws into questions whether we'll see any more of these free content or anything like that. Will they take to basically what Square Enix did, at least try to even go as far as trying to aggressively do more on the monetization, to the point that ultimately they had to pull the plug on it? I mean, hell, there were even plans for the possibility of an offline mode for this. But given what we're hearing right now, I'm not sure this could happen. I just have a feeling there is a very good chance this game will suffer the fate at what happened to basically Marvel's Avenger, and I would not be shocked if WB just pulls this game altogether. I think what even throws into question is the future of Rocksteady in terms of what's going to happen to them and everything like that. I mean, with most of the staff leaving and forming their own studio, the original staff that worked on the Arkham series is basically have moved on and everything. I mean, on top of that, I mean, this might throw into questions for WB Games in terms of what they want to do with their other games. Originally, they've been saying they want to turn their other franchises into live services, but I'm questioning that might throw that into question after seeing what's going on with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And you know what the worst part about all this, at least in my view, is that this is the late Kevin Conroy's, or at least from what we understand, was supposed to be the final time we would hear him voice, Batman. Although that report's kind of like, supposedly he did voices for other characters other versions of Batman or anything like that. But even so, this is really sad. I mean, this is very sad that taking this iconic character from the Arkham series and then just this is what we've turned it into. I mean, yeah, I just don't know what they're going to do with this game. I just think that this game may end up suffering the fate of what we saw with EA's Anthem, which ends up just having a skeleton crew to the point that it's only a matter of time before they pull the plug on that one, or it's going to suffer the same fate with Marvel's Avengers. I just feel like this is just an example of all these studios trying to push for live services and everything like that. And unfortunately, not everyone has the time for live services game. Not everyone has the time to log in every single day and everything like that. So I'm not surprised this is happening with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. We'll see if things turn around, but right now it's not in the best position at this time. So overall, I'm not surprised hearing what's going on with Suicide Squad's Kill the Justice League. I'm just very disappointed because the idea of the Suicide Squad isn't necessarily bad. I just feel like WB has squandered really a lot of opportunities of how to utilize the Suicide Squad and everything like that. And I just feel like this is just another thing adding to that as well. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this report of Nintendo's share dropping following this so-called report of the Switch 2 maybe being delayed into 2025? Do you think this is a big deal? Do you think this isn't a big deal? Could you see Nintendo maybe responding or talking about the Switch 2 sooner, or do you don't think that's going to happen? What are your thoughts about Sony losing $10 billion in terms of their disappointing PlayStation finances and everything like that? Do you think this could be a signal that Sony may make some changes, like maybe release more of their games on PC, to basically maybe making some changes like not having every game be like a AAA experience that they have produced and everything like that? What are your thoughts about Phil Spencer's comment about saying that they're not moving away from physical games at this time? Are you relieved to hear that in any way, or do you feel that this is just delaying the inevitable, if I'm saying the name correctly, to the fact that we are slowly going towards a all-digital future? What are your thoughts about the Nintendo partner showcase, though? Did you think this partner showcase was good? Do you think it was disappointed? Were there games that you were happy they announced? Were there games you wish they had announced during this partner showcase? And finally, what is your take on this recent financial report about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? Are you shocked or surprised to see it be below the expectation WB wanted? Or are you not surprised or shocked at all? Do you feel this game could bounce back, maybe the way like what we saw with Fallout 76 or Cyberpunk 2077? Or do you think that this game will suffer the same fate as what we saw with Marvel's Avengers and Babylon Fall? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel. You can do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!